Hey, welcome to React Roundup, the podcast where we keep you updated on all things React related. This show is sponsored by Raygun and produced by Top End Devs and Envoy. Top End Devs is where we create top end devs to get top end pay and recognition while working on interesting problems and making meaningful community contributions. And Envoy, which provides remote design and software development services on a task basis. So clients only pay when tasks are delivered and approved. In today's episode, we will talk about Material UI, which is a library that I'm pretty sure that most of you are going to be familiar with. And in today's show, we have somebody that is, definitely much more well-versed in the library than myself and has even done a few contributions to the library itself, which is Dmitriy Kovalenko.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. And yeah, sure, we'll be asking any questions you want about Material UI. Just note that I kind of retired contributor to Material UI. I did spend so basically I've been working full-time for about a year on Material UI, but but then I left. And I stopped my contribution though, but I'm still one of the top contributors by GitHub. My face is right on the GitHub profile of Material UI, so you can check it out.
Awesome. And Dmitry, have I said your name the correct way? It's Dmitry Kovalenko?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay. All right. And my name is Lucas Paganini, one of the hosts in the show. And joining me in today's episode are also the amazing hosts, Chris Fruen.
Hi, everyone.
And Peter Osa.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So, Dmitry, let's get started. So I think the first thing that we should talk about, since we're talking about UI library, is, specifically about Material UI. When do you think people should care about it? And when do you think people should not care about it? For example, I do know that it is a very opinionated library in terms of styles. Like we were recently talking about other UI libraries that are very, very flexible in terms of how much you can customize the components itself. And some of them go even to the point where they only provide you the functionalities and you provide the entire style. And I imagine that Material UI is kind of like in the middle, because I know that it provides somewhat flexibility in terms of custom styles and changes and etc. But I also know that it still follows the material design at the end. But yeah, how would you explain to somebody if they should care or not about Material UI?
So, I will just clarify that it used to be very opinionated, and now they're moving from the opinionated Material UI styled approach to the separate, headless components. Used to do the same thing as Radix, as Aria, or wherever, I forget, there are a few of them, headless UI and all of this stuff. And now they have split in their library into base UI and Material UI. Material UI is basically a skin of Material UI design to the skeleton of the headless component used by the component of Material UI, which includes a lot of good things, all of the accessibility, all of the functionality, all of the props used to be known by developers. So you can use both of these modes, kind of. But it is definitely, known by being Material UI oriented. So usually all of the big, customers that are using Material UI, they're definitely often they are choosing Material UI because it is a good library that you can just pick and just integrate into your, just take component, display it on a page, and it looks good. And basically that's it. I don't know, today people who are starting building their own design system are very rarely choosing Material UI because they kind of lost the competition of his headless UI libraries, because they just started building it a year ago, and the Radix and all of the other components were there for a while. I don't know, I think I made this issue to create these unstyled components before all of this hype around them, and they were ignoring this issue for 6 years and just started doing that, just finished that like doing like a year ago. So yeah, I think today it's probably more about like, ready to use styled components they can just integrate into your, I don't know, admin panel, or if you like Material UI, into your like, core app, and just use it as is. Because this customization of the existing UI is kind of weird. With the new mods, I don't say that they are that popular, probably.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, so it's good to know that it is more flexible than I assumed, because that definitely opens up the possibilities of using the library. So
Sure.
that's very good.
So
Okay.
for instance, I still use the one component of Material UI, which is autocomplete hook. Basically, it is very flexible and probably one of the best autocompletes implementation that I know, because I remember that like basically Olivier or Oliver, or I don't still understand how to pronounce his name. I'm always forgetting about that. Probably Olivier is like the main contributor and creator of Material UI. He spent like, I don't know, a year and a half building the one autocomplete component. So it is like literally like, the deepest and the best optimized and the most flexible functionality autocomplete hook that I know from all of the other one. But yeah, so basically there are a few things that are very core and very useful inside Material UI, and I'm happy that they're exposing that separately of styles right now already.
Yeah, that is very interesting. So why don't we talk about this a little bit more? So let's say that someone is listening to this show and they're like, I already have my inputs. Like I don't know if I need a library for this. Like my project already exists and I already have the things that I'm working on. Like everything's working. But you touch on an important point. Like there are a lot of utilities that were built to be used within the Material UI library, and they can be imported individually and used in the context of your specific application. So, are there other utilities such as the autocomplete one that you just mentioned that you think would be useful for people to know about?
I don't know, like probably. So basically, if your app is working, like don't touch it. Why would you replace your component that are still working, right? If you are looking for existing functionality, like, and you need some kind of, working, accessible, like virtualized, optimized, like I don't know, core component, you will look for them, right? And just Material UI will probably be not the first option, but it's definitely one of the really good one, because Material UI devs are spending a lot of time, because there are a lot of users, right, of the base components. And I think it's pretty decent choice if you have like competition having Material UI, because it's like the support, because it will be supported for a while, for forever probably. It has like a lot of users, a lot of like testing before, a lot of like good, like I know, process around like contributions and all this stuff. So probably it's a good choice to be choosing between like headless UI, which is kind of dead right now. We started using it. It's like Tailwind CSS based components, and they stopped actually supporting it. Radix is really good as well, and Material UI base is also good. So basically, yeah, we have more choice, which is good. Competition is never been bad thing.
Chris, Peter, do you guys have any hands-on experience with Material UI?
Okay, yeah. So personally, I think I have. Yeah. So I kind of worked on a React application that was built solely on it. I think it was like version 3 or so. I think the previous one, but before these new changes, right? Well, I do have some kind of like I won't really say complaints though, but like reservations on my end for me though. And maybe Dimitri, you could just um, clear that out as well. So I don't have I as well as working with other like devs on the front end, right, using Material UI. Many of them kind of say that it's a bit rigid, right? Like maybe, for example, I actually know someone who kind of dislikes the way Material UI define like the rows and the columns and those kind of things. I was like, oh, if I could just do this with CSS easily and the club done maybe better. So I don't know what. So I'm just asking. So like, what do you think? Like coming to okay, yeah, I know that there was like a kind of a change, right? So coming to like previous versions that obviously many companies kind of are still using the previous versions because that's kind of the version they're going to maintain, right? So did you see working on the previous ones, right? Did you see any drawback or have you heard anyone from any developers like you once you think that kind of gets to you that you feel that they're kind of like primary concerns as well? Just like the example I gave you, some people say they don't like how the API was built, like for example, the layout APIs, and then the idea of the atomic CSS, you can pass in variables like maybe margins, M as props, and do. I know some kind of people that don't like that structure, right? So, what do you think? Like, do you have any concerns yourself, or have you heard from others about how previous versions have been constructed? Yeah.
Yeah. I think actually that they so basically they did a lot of long way of having different approaches to style things. So right now I believe that there should be a way to target any element of Material UI and have the MUI, like MIUI style and trigger it globally from CSS because of developers actually like were fighting for that. And, like we want to add margin to specific, like, in CSS, just give me this option. And they did it. But I believe that these limitations were did for a good thing, right? Because so basically, like, right, if you have everything built in one, like, isolated approach, your components are isolated, you never touch them, like, globally, they can be mutated by global styles and all of this stuff. It is like, more robust solution because you know that like your components rendering, it will be rendered the same way in like 10 years because nobody will break it accidentally. Good at it or bad at, like, probably everyone chooses for himself. So I personally did like this. I personally did like this approach. I think it's pretty good because, like, additional safety kind of, but the other developers who love doing CSS and all of this other stuff, probably not. So yeah, we just like, just choosing which one to prefer.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I get that as well. And I think there was a point where we kind of, if you want to define styles, you have to create like an object, React component, and then kind of properly define those styles. Yeah, I think that one was actually like
That was changed. That was changed. So basically, they did
yes.
use GSX, right, for styles. GSS, not GSX. And now they are using emotion, probably. So basically, you can use template literals, or you can use CSS files as well. So yeah, I think it's now flexible enough. Before it, yes, it was. Firstly, it was inline styles, which are annoying because you don't have hovers and all this stuff. Then there was a GSS, which is kind of styled components, but using objects of styles, which was not, which was good, but not good enough because people were complaining. We want to write CSS, and then they gave you complete, freedom of choosing how you will write your CSS, which is good.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah. So also in there I also have another question in the aspect of accessibility. So like and I don't know, I've kind of worked on it to a certain level with accessibility, but do you feel that as compared to other popular UI frameworks like maybe Chakra UI, like do you feel Material UI kind of follows the whole accessibility ideology, right? Because I know that when it comes to accessibility, a lot of people kind of mention other UI libraries as accessible, kind of that was like the aim, kind of. So what do you think on accessibility as regards Material UI?
I'm pretty sure it is like, the best of the kind, the best in the world. Probably, I don't know, like probably not the best, but I am pretty sure they following all of the accessibility guidelines. At least when I've been working on Material components, accessibility was one of the top priorities, and following all of the W3C, right? W3C conventions of how to build certain components, like specifically like date picker. It's like a nightmare from the accessibility perspective. You need to support average, and it's like such a customizable component. And like grids, just the target is not less than 100% be accessible and tested through the accessibility trees. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's all done pretty well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome because I think I needed that to be clear because I know I've worked on accessibility for Material as well, kind of used it in a way. But there's some developers that have kind of argued that it's not this, that. So I think I'm happy that it's actually kind of cleared, right? That's actually very accessible as other frameworks to UI frameworks. And also, I have another question again as regards the ease of use, right? So as I think previously I talked about the API. I'm kind of using like opinions from people I've worked with as well and my personal experiences, right? So um many people feel that there's kind of a learning curve in working with Material UI in the sense that the APIs are kind of rigid. Let me use the words from people, right? Where they feel that it takes so much to do just easy things. Let me use that way. So what do you think about that? Or do you think that maybe that was actually a concern previously, and maybe the contributors are trying to kind of work on how to maybe refine it or something. So I just want to know your view on that, what people say about the rigidity of the APIs and how it's been structured of Material UI.
I mean, like, I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I use Material UI since 0 point, like, versions, which is like very long time ago. So the basically core principles were migrated. So for me, it's very easy to use right now, But in fact, if I am not like using it full time right now, so I actually don't write. I still write somewhat React on my full time job, but we don't use Material UI. We use Tailwind CSS plus Radix. I love it, but I still sometimes return it back to Material UI because I have so much like things that I wrote for this years in Material UI, and I don't have problems, to be honest, like writing Material UI. But if somebody does have, and somebody wants more freedom, somebody wants something more like closer to just HTML and CSS, just don't pick Material UI, right? It's like the different. You have plenty of choice. Why would you force yourself doing things that you don't like, right? Just choose whatever you think is more good, more easy to use, more clear. Like, yeah, somebody choose Material UI because they think like, okay, well, take the component. Here's an API. I will configure it and forget about it. Somebody wants to have the 1,000 lines of HTML to configure one component. Why not? Like, it's different approach.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's very correct. So now, because yeah, I think when they usually bring that kind of concern, I usually say yeah, maybe there are kind of developers that are concerned about maybe Tailwind or HTML, Atomic CSS, HTML kind of pattern, right? A lot of people who love like crafting designs from scratch, that they want to get that kind of fundamental freedom to every component, right? And yeah, there's still some people who really loves like frameworks like okay, like Material UI now it's kind of buoyant and you don't really need to do much to do certain things, right? So I get that actually. I get that. I think it's based on the person who actually like what is your choice and what do you want and which type of UI system do you like, right? So
Like also money, right? If you're building some kind of admin component or the thing that you don't really care about how it will look like, you don't want to spend a lot of time configuring it, like building like internal components. That's why I think Material UI is very often used for admin dashboards, because you just import component and you forget about it. And when you have your landing page, right? When you need to have a complete, like, I don't know, why would you use React for landing page? But people using React for landing.
exactly, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
like probably something like, I don't know, like your, I don't know, whatever, like, I don't know, versatile dashboard is written in React. You want to have like precise control over how the things renders because thousands of people using that. So pick something different probably, or just write it from scratch for yourself, right? It's just like a matter of time, of money, of like your personal preference. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, because also I worked on a lot of projects that use Material UI for like admin dashboards, like B2B dashboards. Yeah, so I think I get you on that regard. So I think it's based on if you want to save time, I think it's just best to use that. But then if you're concerned about intricate design and certain things, you want to customize everything right. I think you can use any framework, any free app. Tailwind, like I think Tailwind is the get go for so many people. So you just let me just do it with Tailwind down, probably work with Radix or Shard CN and so on. Yeah. So that's actually true. Another question I have again is do you have an idea of probably any improvement or any maybe future concerns that are going to come up into the framework? That's why do you have any idea of any?
This is a hard question, to be honest. Like as I said, I left contributing a long time ago, and I don't use it like every day. So probably I am not the best person to actually ask about that right now. I mean, like probably they're moving to the right direction right now with all of the base UI support for Tailwind, for whatever, trying to be like more customizable, more flexible, and having like your styles as a skin tone or like a theme or whatever. I mean, I feel like they're doing good things right now, but probably they're already too big to move faster. So basically, like the market goes a bit faster than they are moving. I feel like because it's already a big company, like I don't know, maybe 20 people working there, or maybe even more. I don't even know right now. It's not like a small team of like just enthusiasts or building like big component library because they like it. It's like already a company, so they are started moving slowly, kind of. I don't know, whatever, and probably like I don't know, maybe just move faster for the market would be my guess. But I'm probably like it's just like one shot or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think those are my questions. Chris, do you have any for material? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, first, I wanted to mention. So some people like me, all my websites are written in React. A lot of my home pages. But I wanted to pick your brain about Radix because I started a project with that, and I actually thought it was kind of weird. Maybe you can help explain why. But like the primitives page, they give like for a dialogue, they give you like the markup in React, but then I don't know if it's recommended CSS or like I have this feeling like if I don't use exactly their recommended CSS, then like it won't be best practices or whatever. So because I was comparing it, I was looking at Material UI, which I unfortunately haven't used yet. But you just drop in a dialogue and it just works. Like because I mean I don't mind external CSS. I have the concern that if the Radix team decides like, hey, we don't like this look exactly, let's change this one line. If you've copied some custom CSS just for a component later, it's like it probably will still look fine, but it just won't be like up to date. So
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, probably the whole idea of Radix is to be exactly the thing that is not require you to, that is not expert in CSS. They, on their examples, right, they have CSS just to show up things, right? And to be able you to copy it. But if you want to craft it totally different styles, like, I don't know, you want sharp edges, you want like, I don't know, like dark components, or you want like, I don't know, maybe cartoon based components, you can do that without any CSS overhead, because if you have initial tone or initial theme, initial CSS, and you need to override it, basically you have two copies of CSS for a component. Then it might be hard to support when you update a component. It might be like look bad because the new property appeared on this style sheet, then you did not override it's now bad, or like priorities and all of this stuff. So the Radix itself is probably claims that you should just write your CSS for yourself, right? They have the examples with Tailwind, I think, and you just take it and then do whatever you want to, because the Radix itself does not have any components. And this, on the examples, I am pretty sure basically just a reference to just display something in not plain HTML, right?
okay, yeah, maybe I think I probably took the examples like as required, like this markup with this CSS, which I guess it was just weird for me.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure it's
Okay.
not. Basically, it's like, if you will open like Radix right now, it should say pretty clearly on the, so it's starting an open source component library optimized for fast development, easy maintenance. Okay, it's not saying that it's not a headless library, right? But you have, yeah, so there is some Radix themes, right? I have no I didn't even seen that before. Probably there is some kind of theme in right now, but I personally use it as a headless library totally, so it doesn't have any styles at all, and only styles that they have are used to do something for accessibility and all the stuff like attributes, and style it all myself.
Yeah, I also had a question in general, just with your experience with customization. I saw Material UI provides a lot of different ways. Like you can do one-off, like I think you mentioned, like inline styles, or you can do overrides. So for me, typically, like whenever I'm working with a library, I typically enjoy writing CSS and like using it globally. But I was just wondering what approaches you've used, and what do you like, or are you more the type that you hate CSS and you like to do all styled components, or because I always find like there's just a huge variety in front end devs, like what they like more and what they dislike.
Yeah. So if you ask my personal thing, I don't like writing global CSS just because it's too too switching context for me. I love right now my personal preferred way is Tailwind CSS, where you have base styles and you just convert it. I love being able to style everything inside one HTML, right? I think that CSS is kind of overkill. Just don't take me wrong. It's just my personal opinion. I think like SVG, for instance, you can perfectly fine write SVGs with inline styles only, right? When you just put attributes to styles, it's not really matter where you put your CSS, and as a file or into the HTML files if you have component system. If you don't have component system, you have pretty like separate HTML and CSS, yes, it makes sense because you need to target things and you don't want to duplicate stuff. But when you have components, right, and you can write your attributes once and then reuse the component, then it probably makes more sense to me to write CSS right inside HTML. And Tailwind does it, I think, in the best possible way, the fastest, the easiest, and like the clearest for me personally. So I just chosen this way instead of writing CSS. But I totally respect the point of view of developers who love writing CSS, who did write CSS for years, and they want to just write class names. Just make sure that it is not like there is no collisions and there is no like potential problems with missing styles, important and all this stuff. So yeah, why not? I think both ways are pretty good.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that part was. I think you did well because it could have been very very polemic. So I think you were able to please both sides. I
Okay.
am mostly from the team of writing CSS when possible, but when I'm doing React, then I always just go with styled components. And but yeah. Okay, so Dimitri, there are a couple of components that even though they could be reused, it's just so simple to code them that I'd never needed any library to help me. So, for example, a button. Like it's not like a super complex thing to build. So I generally just build it myself. But on the other spectrum, there are components that they're really hard to build. So, for example, a date picker or a calendar. Well, basically anything that has time zones in it. It's pretty hard. And that also needs support for internationalization and a lot of different user gestures and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to get is, do you think there are any components in the Material UI that even though people could be coding them from scratch or whatever, you do think that they should definitely first see if what Material UI has serves their purpose so that they try it there first before trying to recreate them?
I would say definitely date picker because I am actually I've been working mostly on date pickers in Material UI. So basically, I built the date picker in Material UI, the date, the time, the date time pickers, and this is like this is the freaking worst components in the world to build for myself. Like I spent like years building these date pickers. They are complicated as heck. I don't know, like it is really complicated components. I mean, there are a lot of issue that you have never think about. Like, you have a phone, right? And basically you have phone like this. And if you turn it like, in the landscape orientation, right? The date picker should rotate, right? And you have never think about that unless you have somebody who is like complaining about this and making this from scratch, supporting the mobile input, which is totally different from the desktop input, is very hard because in desktop input, people used to do the masking input, which is the easiest way. You have a mask for days, for months, in years, right? And you need to enter, you want to enter it from keyboard. You don't want to pick your, the mouse and just scroll for years, which is like weird. And on mobile, it's much easier to just like scroll it with your thumb, right? And in fact, there are a lot of like tweaks to make it look good because date pickers and time pickers, they both have different views for mobile and for desktop. You need to make it accessible for mobiles, accessible for desktop. There are a lot of twerks with, displaying the dates, manipulating with dates because everyone wants their own library. So I wrote the whole library to adapt, like as an adapter between different like types of libraries, data finesse, date.js, and all of this stuff. And it's published under my name Date.io right now. And Material UI, I suppose they're still using it or they forked it, but they've been using it for a while. And there is a lot of issues I don't remember even about because it's very hard and very complicated components. And other stuff like I don't know, like tables with virtualization is also a very complicated component that you probably don't want to start building from scratch because it's very hard. I wouldn't say though that Material UI implementation is the best in the world. I am not sure about this right now. I was sure about this when I've been building DatePicker that it was one of the best in the world. Probably still it's very good. But like you just need to check and probably just don't, like I don't know, don't build your own bicycle every time. Yeah, which is like maybe will be not the best, UI, not the best thing, not because you are a bad developer, but just you don't have time to think about all of the, edge cases which appeared through the years of different users been using Material UI or different libraries.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can identify a lot with the part about thinking that it is the best in the world until you see what somebody else has done. I felt that way multiple times, but yeah, it's eventually I got my ego in check, and I started looking at my own code without even comparing to others and thinking somewhere around the world there's something better than this. But yeah, cool. And on the other side, what are some of the things that you would not recommend people to rely on, not just Material UI, but any library to do, like stuff that you would say, hey, honestly, from my experience, you're better off just coding this from scratch?
Like it's matter of time, right? If you're I mean, like it's definitely the matter of time. If you are building like I don't know, if your whole like app is all about like tables, right? I don't know, like for instance, you might want to build it like I don't know, you build a Notion or whatever, right? And one of the core features is your tables, and you want to make it like very flexible and have the whole control of how you are displaying tables. Probably worse to build it from scratch, even if it's complicated. Just make sure that you follow all of the guidelines, you make it look good on all of the devices, accessible and all this stuff. But if you have yeah, and the same for all of the components, it's a matter of time, like how much time you can spend on building specific component. If you are building like I don't know, like Notion calendar used to be Chronify, right? You don't want to pick date picker from some library probably because it is like one of the most core functionality of your app. Just build it for yourself and make sure it is like, optimized for your business purpose. I would say so.
Okay, that does make sense. All right, so guys, honestly, in terms of questions that I had, I think it's mostly it. I would love to just know if there's anything you would like to expand more, Dimitri, before we just start wrapping up and talk about some of our other projects and stuff. So yeah, let's talk about some of the other things that we've been working on. So Dimitri, why don't you start, since you're the start today? So I did saw some of the some other project that you're working on, which is F frames. I honestly thought this was really, really interesting. So why don't you pitch that project to the audience and tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay. So basically, FFrames. So if you heard about like things like Remotion, which is a tool for rendering videos in React, and it is slow, like, I don't know, like a snail. So basically, my goal is to take the same concept and to make it fast as, like, I don't know, as whatever, as Rocket. Basically, it's a project in Rust, which I'm building for 2 years, and I'm, like, I don't have time to actually finish it. I have like one last feature that I want to finish, and it's very complicated. I want to integrate the full Skia renderer to FFrames, which is basically the 2D renderer based on inside your Chrome, right inside your that renders Chrome and all of the, like, probably hours and today, GPU based and very fast. But I wrote a lot of code already, and basically it's all about like rendering videos in the basically very inspired way of React. It's in Rust, but your videos are rendering as kind of SVG components, which are GS6 inspired. Basically, you have a macro to render SVG yourself, like, and you describe it as SVG template based on React. And the concept of rendering is very similar. You have like one render of one frame, and you have like isolated renders, no mutations, nothing like that. No state updates because the videos doesn't have state at all. But yeah, basically it's trying to be very fast, and it's still in beta, so in closed beta. So yeah, I hope I will not die before I will release it.
I won't let you die. I gotta see that product.
Thank you.
How about you, Peter?
Yeah, so nothing much on my end. I think I shared Radix UI and MUI base. I think we talked about it on the chat. So I think maybe we could just share this so that the audience could see the link. Yeah, for especially for audiences that don't know that, yeah, MUI kind of have a base on it. Yeah.
Okay. Let me. I'll also send some of the links that we discussed today. So I'm gonna send it on the comment section too. Well, my promo is just gonna be on Void. So for any of you that might be interested in software outsourcing or extending your staff, Envoid offers design and software development services on a either hourly, the traditional hourly model, or in a task-based manner. So you can break your tasks into sprints and assign them to Envoid, and they're going to work directly with your staff, and you're only going to have to pay after those tasks are delivered and approved. So it really does give you a ton of safety into in software outsourcing. And how about you, Chris? So I'm going to send some of those links here in the comment section while Chris shares with us the things he's working on.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna also share something that I've started. It's, I guess, similar. I mentioned at we were talking before the show to Dmitry. I'm working on a similar thing, but now I've just been blown away by real technology. So basically what I'm doing, I have a very small little applet that it can convert, you give a code snippet and it writes it on a canvas, uses WASM in the browser and generates a video. That's actually, but I've kind of pivoted away from that because, maybe someone like for TikTok would use it to explain like a very small snippet of code. But now I've kind of gone it's not generative AI, but I leverage AI stuff like voice cloning and step generation to actually do a screen capture where you can say like, okay, open the terminal, issue this command. The whole thing behind it is eventually my goal is, because I make software courses and I've realized that it's really painful to edit them down, and like when you make mistakes you got to go back and cut it. So the goal is eventually that you can almost automate, or at least greatly help your workflow when you create software courses. But it's nowhere near like Dmitry's work with F frames.
You know,
It's
yeah, just sorry for interrupting you, but this is exactly thing that is I'm trying to. So Frames is targeting people who are building apps like you're doing, right? But just like it not in the inside browser, but you're building an app and it renders on server. And I'm trying to make it just fast so you can not host your own like GPU infrastructure, but you have your own pretty good, like pretty standard, AWS infrastructure, and it still renders pretty fast on CPU. Basically, it's very fun. I'm sorry, being really excited about your project because it's really like a thing that should be very easy to do with FFrames. Basically, FFrames would be a backend for your project, right? And that's very fun.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I tried to be cool and say like, okay, you can use a Docker backend image, or you can use the front end. The front end is WASM, which is anyway like barely. It feels somehow like it's still beta, and the back end I ended up trying to fight like doing recording like a screen capture on a Lambda function, and I went down this rabbit hole of like there's specific rules with yeah. So yeah, of course, like as soon as I saw this project, I said, man, I need this for like, yeah, like you said, it's my back end. So yeah, let's definitely get in touch after the show. I'd definitely be interested.
Yeah, sure. I will be happy to help because I think there used to be one person who tried to build the same thing, but I don't know. I think he just like disappeared.
Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, like the idea of rendering videos inside browser is very bad because of the codecs and all of this stuff is only one way. If we would have like backward, so basically there is web codecs API that allows you to and decode the audio and video right inside the browser using like C++ based API inside browser and all of this stuff. But there is no way to use it backwards. And if you're trying to compile like back to WASM, it becomes really slow, and people are not like I think love it. To be honest, there is no big projects that they are encoding videos in the browser. It's just slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know, if you just start in whatever, it's pretty good, and I definitely would play around with that. I'm becoming really excited.
Yeah, we could talk after the show.
Sure.
Just be careful, Chris, because he literally said that he's your competitor, and the other guy that was doing it suddenly disappeared.
No.
Oh.
I
No.
mean, like, so like, I'm not a competitor. I'm the partner. I am kind of interested in more tools like that appear because frames meant to be used to make them faster, right? Because right now, like, there is not a lot of things that are programmatically renders video. Not a lot of like, you will not find a lot of products that renders like, I don't know, charts, videos in browser programmatically based on data. And I think that just because there is no product that makes it fast and easy to build, like like React is used to be thing that is easy to build a SAP, right? Single page application, SPA, right? And there is no way, there is no library that makes it fast and easy to build like a video from data programmatically. And if FFrames will succeed, I hope there will be much more product like that based on FFrames or maybe other potential things.
Yeah, and it's like for me, it's kind of like the next generation, right? Like now we have so many image generators, right? Like for I don't know, like Instagram borders, and you even have Carbon makes like static pictures of code, but there's nobody doing it for video because of what you're mentioning. It's like there's no tool, there's no good tool for it. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, Dmitry, it was lovely to have you on the show. So feel free to join again whenever you want. You're very, very welcome here. It was very nice meeting you. And yeah, for all of you that stick to this episode up until the very end, thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next one.